A scientist wanted to test his theory. He needed a volunteer who was about to die. He found one. A man about to be sentenced to death by electric chair. The scientist proposed an experiment. He would gradually lower the man's heart rate by making his blood flow slowly until the last drop. He explained that while there was a slim chance of survival, death would come peacefully, without the pain of electrocution. The prisoner agreed, thinking this was a better way to go than the electric chair. He lay on a stretcher, strapped down so he couldn't move. The scientist then made a small cut on his wrist and placed an aluminum plate underneath. The cut was only skin deep, but the prisoner believed his vein had been severed. A thin tube with a valve slowly dripped clear water onto the plate. Hearing the drops one by one, the prisoner assumed it was his blood falling. As the scientist adjusted the valve to slow the dripping, the prisoner believed he was bleeding out. Minutes later, his face turned pale and his heart rate spiked. As his fear reached its peak, the scientist shut off the valve. The prisoner's heart stopped instantly. He was dead. This scientific experiment has proven that every emotion we experience, whether positive or negative, has a profound impact on our mental and physical health. When people are consumed by fear, their nervous system becomes overstressed, which weakens the immune system. In the story above, the prisoner's fear caused his heart rate to spike, his stress to reach its peak, and ultimately, it led to his death. On the surface, it seems like fear directly caused his death, but the deeper truth is that his mind had weakened. Negative emotions completely took over, leaving him unable to control his thoughts, which led to both his physical and mental collapse. This shows that when we let fear and worry take over, it doesn't just affect our mind, it seriously impacts our body too. On the other hand, maintaining a positive and strong mindset can help protect both our physical and mental health. Let's go back to the story of the beggar and the king's promise. Once upon a time, a king decided to go out and observe the lives of his people on a freezing winter day. On his way back, just before reaching the gates of his palace, he noticed an old beggar huddled in a dark corner. The man wore nothing but thin, tattered clothes that seemed completely inadequate for such harsh weather. The king was astonished that the beggar had managed to survive in such brutal cold with so little protection. Curious, he asked, "Aren't you cold?" The beggar replied, "Your Majesty, of course I feel cold. But as a poor beggar, what can I do? I too wish I had warm clothes so I wouldn't have to endure this bitter cold, but that is only a dream. Years of hardship have taught me resilience, helping me grow accustomed to the cold. I no longer fear it and have learned to live with it every day." Hearing this, the king was deeply moved and felt great compassion for the man. He said, "Don't worry. Soon I will have my servants bring you warm clothes. You won't have to suffer this bitter cold any longer." Overjoyed, the beggar expressed his heartfelt gratitude, thanking the king repeatedly for his kindness and generosity. However, after returning to the palace, the king became occupied with his duties and completely forgot about his promise to the old beggar. Exhausted from a long day, he fell asleep, only to wake up the next morning with a sudden realization. Shocked, he immediately ordered the guards to bring warm clothes to the beggar outside the palace. But when the guards arrived, they found that the old man's body had already grown cold. He had likely frozen to death during the night. What surprised them the most, however, was a letter left beside him. It read, "Long live your Majesty. For so long I have survived with nothing but these thin, tattered clothes. But it was your promise last night that made me unable to endure the cold this time." In this story, the old beggar experienced two completely opposite states. In the first state, when facing the bone-chilling cold, his strong will to survive awakened within him. This determination created an internal source of energy that helped his body adapt and endure the freezing temperatures. Thanks to his mental strength, he was able to withstand the harsh winter days. However, when he entered the second state, everything changed. After receiving the king's promise, his trust in the king's word gave him a sense of security, and he began to rely on it. That feeling of relief gradually overshadowed his will to survive, weakening the connection between his mind and body. When his spirit stopped fighting the cold, his body no longer generated enough energy to keep him warm. In the end, as night fell and the freezing temperatures took over, he could no longer resist. His body grew colder, weaker, and eventually he passed away. This story shows that the power of will can help people overcome adversity. But when we lose motivation and fall into complacency, we become vulnerable and easily defeated by our circumstances. From these two stories, we can see that the mind plays a crucial role in human survival. It can be seen as the soul within each of us, constantly influenced by powerful emotions. Emotions don't just guide the soul, triggering different responses like excitement, sadness, motivation, or despair. They can even destroy it. As shown in these stories, fear led to the prisoner's death, while complacency and reliance on others led to the beggar's demise. From this, we realize that emotions can be a double-edged sword. They can lift us to the heights of happiness, but they can also drag us into suffering, even to the point of harming our well-being. So how can we control our emotions and prevent them from taking over our minds? The answer lies in cultivating inner strength, building a resilient mindset that remains steady despite external ups and downs. How can the mind become stronger? If we want a healthy body, we need proper nutrition and physical exercise. But to strengthen the mind, we don't need to add more. We need to remove. Remove the chaos, let go of the noise, and reach a state of stillness. When the mind becomes quiet and empty, it gains true stability and is no longer controlled by negative emotions. Steps to strengthen a resilient mind. 1. Accept life as it unfolds. Understand that every challenge and difficulty in life has a reason and follows a certain order. When something happens, don't rush to resist it, question why it occurred, or obsess over the outcome. Instead, stay calm, embrace the situation, and focus on doing what needs to be done. Let things flow naturally. 2. Learn to let go. Nothing in life happens by chance. When someone gets angry at you, takes something from you, or walks away, there is always a reason. Welcome what comes. Let go of what leaves. No clinging, no regrets. When you release attachments to status, wealth, and relationships, emotions will no longer have the power over your mind. 3. Cultivating compassion. Put yourself in others' shoes to understand and empathize with them. When you can see things from their perspective, resentment, anger, and grudges will fade away. Compassion not only brings joy to those around you, but also fills your own heart with peace and serenity. 4. Make time for stillness every day. Set aside a moment each day to pause, meditate, or reflect on yourself. Observe which emotions controlled you today. Identify their root causes and let go of any negative thoughts. When the mind is steady, the world changes too. In life, the most important thing isn't material wealth, but inner peace. When the mind is calm, everything around us falls into place. There's an old saying, the world changes as the mind changes. In other words, our surroundings reflect our inner state. When we shift our mind, our entire perspective on life transforms as well. What are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave a comment and let us know what's on your mind. We hope today's insights give you a fresh perspective on the connection between emotions and consciousness. Take a moment to gift your mind some peace and stillness. And don't forget to subscribe and follow the Stillness Within channel to explore new and fascinating insights with us.